what is freedom of speech? It's the freedom to speak. So I read a politician today saying, I agree with freedom of speech, but there are limits. Well, there's no freedom of speech then. Freedom of speech is the freedom to speak. If anyone's not allowed to speak, then it's not freedom of speech, it's freedom to conform to certain parameters of what are acceptable. And then what that's doing is giving power to some authority to decide what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And as we see, and we're seeing it massively now, once you give that power to an authority, it then starts interpreting what can and cannot be said in a way that squeezes and squeezes and squeezes more and more of what cannot be said. This is what political correctness is about. What is political correctness? It's simply manipulating the target population to silence itself, so those in authority don't have to. It's ridiculous. Now, people say, well, you say that people can say anything. Well, yes, I do, and I'll tell you why. There are laws against incitement to racism, incitement to hatred, incitement to violence. There are laws against that.
Are they laws you agree with?
Yeah, and if people use their freedom of speech to incite those things, then there are laws to deal with that, and those laws should deal with it. What I'm saying is, once you start censoring freedom of speech at the point of delivery, or even more sinister, before the point of delivery, by banning people from the right to have access to the communication networks or speak in public, that is what the fascists do. What did fascists do in Nazi Germany? What does any tyranny do? It wants to silence those that are exposing the tyranny and have a different version of events to the tyranny. So what did the Nazis do? They burnt the books. They banned the meetings of people who were exposing the Nazis. And now in this inverted world, we have people who call themselves progressives, and they seem to have this extraordinary self-delusion that progressive mentality has something to do with being liberal, when it's not. It's the opposite of liberal. They are the ones that claim to be wanting people to be inclusive and to have diversity.
But maybe on their terms.
When they're destroying diversity. And they have become the new tyranny. They have become the new Nazis. And so...
That sounds quite a strong thing to say.
Well, what I'm saying here is, if you look at what this progressive mentality is doing in silencing people and deciding in their arrogance what people can and cannot say and what opinion they can and cannot have, you look at what the Nazis did. You look at what the communist Soviet Union did in terms of freedom of speech, and you show me the difference between them. There is none. And it's this self-deluded arrogance which goes like this: I am right, therefore anyone who says something different must therefore be wrong, and by definition, because they are wrong and I am right, their freedom of speech to be wrong doesn't need to be taken into account. That's how the mentality goes. What I say is, I don't agree with them, I don't agree with them, I don't agree with them. I do agree with them. But I don't want to silence any of them. Because are we so immature that we can't hear different opinions? Even those we don't like, sits back in amazement, horrified, call the police, and make our own judgments on what's being said and the validity of it. Do we not have the maturity to put forward another counter argument, which, if we are confident in what we're saying, will demolish that which we don't agree with? Anyone that wants to silence people rather than argue their case can't have much confidence in their own case, surely. And once you go down this road of giving authority the right to decide what can be said, what opinions can be had, you are in a tyranny, and that's where we're going now. But it's bigger than that, because it's not just political correctness. You can't say this, you can't say that, you must say that. It's also the fact that humanity has been hoaxed on a monumental scale in relation to freedom of expression and freedom of information. Someone who, looks down on people because they don't have money, or they don't have this, or don't have that. Because I've been there, and for me, we're all individual expressions of the same consciousness, just having different experiences. And we should start supporting each other and seeing us all as one consciousness having different experiences, instead of self-identifying with all these bloody labels. For me, the world is controlled, and humanity is controlled and controls itself, and creates the very ground for which divide and rule is possible, which allows the few to control the many, through its obsession with labels. So we say, you're working class. Remember that great scene on the old David Frost program, where you had the three guys. John Cleese was one, and Ronnie Barker and Ronnie Corbett were the others, and they were different sizes. And John Cleese was dressed as a rich man in the nice suit, and then you had Ronnie Barker, next one down. He was kind of middle class in a trilby, and then you had Ronnie Corbett, little guy on the end, and he was kind of working class with the flat cap, all the cliches. And it was a wonderful thing, describing the way that labels dictate our interaction, where one's saying, I look down on him because I am upper class, and then the guy in the middle was saying, and I look down on him because he is lower class, and we both look up on him because he's upper class. And these labels, labels of race, labels of sexuality, labels of religion, and these are not who we are. They are experiences that our consciousness is having, our awareness is having. And once you start self-identifying with the label, you start looking at yourself in terms of little me. I am my label. I am Ethel, who works on the checkout at Tesco. That's all I am. No. You are an expression of infinite awareness, having an experience called Ethel on the checkout. Bill driving the bus. You say to people, who are you? You say, well, I'm Bill, I come from Manchester, and I drive a bus. No, that's what you're experiencing. Bill is the name of your current experience. What you are is consciousness having that experience.